Spaceplace, episode number 85. What's up, gang?
What's going on?
How's it going?
It is going, sir.
It's going good here.
So where are you at, Adam? What's going on?
I am currently driving up on the road out from Lake Mead. Just pulled the kayak out of the water. I decided that my shocking whiteness might blind the audience, so I decided to turn my camera off. But yeah, having a good day, doing some brainstorming and thinking about plans for the future.
Right on. I think that's where we're all at. So we're going to be jamming on Fund 10. Welcome, Pi. We're going to be jamming on Fund 10, Catalyst, Proposals, and Funding. What's up, Pi? I guess Kyle got rugged.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you, brother?
Pretty good. Is my mic okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, sounds good on this end.
I'm mobile this week, so not at my usual setup.
Yeah, it's sounding good.
So Fund 10's coming up. People are submitting proposals now. Pi, what do you guys have in the pipeline? Anything?
Yeah, we've got a couple of proposals that we're planning on submitting. So it'll be our first time submitting to Catalyst proposal, or submitting to Catalyst. And we've got a couple different ideas, so we're going to try and submit them all and see what people want us to build. We're not expecting all of them to get funded, but if one or two get funded, that'll be great, and we can build some cool stuff.
Right on.
All right, so I mean, this is actually a potentially interesting question, and one that I've already raised publicly with regards to Fund 10, because I think we're all in the same boat, right? We got like a lot of things, a big laundry list of stuff that we would like to build, and that we think for whatever reason, our proposal is a good choice, and it should get funded because it's a good addition to Cardano. What happens if all of your proposals receive the upvote and get funding? Do you have the capacity to actually execute on all of them in the timeline? Like, should people put a shotgun's worth of proposals out there into the universe, or should you focus on just a handful of the things you really, really want to get done? It's a kind of interesting point of discussion, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and I think my opinion is that no company should put out more proposals than they would be willing to tackle if they all got funded. At Sunday Labs, we're putting out enough that we'd be stretched pretty thin if they all got funded, but we do feel confident on being able to execute on them in parallel to spinning up the team, right? So if they all got funded, we'd be able to make progress on all of them while we hired an extra engineer to kind of relieve that workload so the team isn't super stressed. Similarly, on the other end of the spectrum, I think if you're putting out multiple proposals, you should be comfortable, or I won't say should because everybody has a different circumstance, but I think it's great if you're comfortable, delivering them regardless, right? And maybe it's just on a different timeline, or you keep some of it closed source or things like that. So for example, for most of our proposals, not getting funded doesn't mean that we're going to kind of throw our hands up and abandon the space. It'll be things that get developed, maybe further out. So instead of building it in the next couple of months, it'll happen at the end of the year or something like that. And, I think what we want to be using the Catalyst funds for is companies that are here to build, right? And we're aiding that process and making that smoother, not subsidizing every idea guy who can throw a bunch of ideas at the wall. And that, that's just my opinion, but what is everybody else's thoughts?
I agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
1,000%.
I totally agree. It's very important to fund the builders that are in the space that have delivered stuff that, you know, there's, but at the same time, there's also a lot of good ideas. But at this stage in the game, you really need to be bringing some pretty big credentials with it. It just can't be a promise and a pitch deck at this stage.
I mean, especially if it's many proposals or it's really big proposals, right?
Yeah.
So I think like there's a bunch of companies, Sunday, Drip Drops, Noom, DC Spark, who have all like demonstrated their ability to deliver. And so, you know, I think we should expect to see lots of proposals from those projects and lots of very ambitious proposals. But that's not to be exclusionary to other people, because like I don't think you should just continue to like double down on the resources that you have, right? So like, and you want to kind of build up that diversity of builders. So I think it'd be a big shame if, for example, all of the money, every Catalyst fund went to DC Spark, Drip Drops, Sunday, blah, blah, blah. It's Sunday, it's our first time submitting, but you know, those other things, I think they do great work, but you also want that diversity. And so like my recommendation to people who are like who have a great idea and would be building a team, and like this would be their first big project that they're like building as a software development team, is to start small and start, you know, less ambitious. One proposal for, you know, $10,000 or $20,000, and you know, get that delivered, because building up that team culture and the processes to be able to deliver is really hard. It feels like it took us 2 years to get that worked out at Sunday.
Yeah, the other thing I would recommend for new proposers is not put your whole project in there. Put the first phase of it in there. Like, you know, they already want you to break it down into milestones, so you can break it down even further. So like one of the proposals I'm putting in through Noom is it's called Plutok, Plutok, and it's a Kotlin virtual machine for Plutus. And it's just kind of a side project. We got approached by the CF to do it, but it's not going to be a full-blown environment where you can write a Plutus smart contract in it day one. The only thing we're putting in the proposal for is just the virtual machine, so you could like calculate execution units, and that's all the proposal is. It's very tiny, it's small. You know we can deliver that piece. It's not basically ramp down the ambition, ramp down the cost to Catalyst, and you know, eat the elephant one bite at a time type
That's
of thing.
right. And that's
Yeah,
what
while still delivering value.
Right.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing with Drip Drops and a Dozier. I mean, for example, on a Dozier, we're submitting one for open source reputation management tooling, and so that's part of the platform. It's just it's a tiny component, part of the overall, you know, just one cog in the wheel, I guess you could say. But yeah, you know, and we're gonna have a big one with Drip Drops. It's a big you know piece of kit, but. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you can, and the milestones help with that too. I think something to think about too is, you know, turbo, stateless turbo, whatever. You know, that whole scenario kind of illustrated like the milestones are good because you're not going to get the funding if you're not delivering. But that whole thing, and they did receive some funding, but that whole kind of thing can be avoided if, you know, they asked for so much funding and they just cut so many smaller projects that could have been funded out of the loop. You know? So if you're asking for reasonable amounts of money and submitting proposals for things that you can actually deliver on, you know, more things will be funded for development, which I think is more important.
Pi, can you talk maybe about some of the proposals you're putting in? Because you've been talking abstract, and I think people want to know. Give us the deets.
Yeah, let me come back to you, because I'm going to ask my team members which ones we're ready to talk about, because I just haven't talked to them yet. But to your point,
I talked to them a minute ago, so
Alpha,
I told
alpha.
them Pi's coming on Spaceplace to talk about proposals, and they were like, okay.
Okay, yeah. So one of them. So as people know, last October we demoed. We were the first kind of really big production demo of a real application on Hydra, and that was, I think some people got the wrong idea from that demo. We were not, and we tried to emphasize this at the time, that we were not close to launching on Hydra. And that Hydra itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense for DEXs. But we've been kind of doing R&D and ideating in the background on this protocol that we're right now calling the Gummy Worm Protocol. Name might change, but so progress on that has been a little bit slower than I would like, because we've had a lot of other things that we've been trying to deliver. The new rewrite to our V2 UI and things like that. But in the last 3 months, we've really started to pick up the progress on that again. And out of that is going to come several improvements that we can submit as pull requests to the Hydra project. And so we are going to be asking for Catalyst funding for 2 of those features. Which would basically be upstream pull requests that are being built as part of the Gummy Worm protocol, where we can submit them as a pull request so that everybody gets the benefit of these features. Nice. And it's a little bit technical, but I assume a lot of the people watching this are technical. One of them is going to be able.
I'm co-streaming to Nerd Out right now, so you're on both channels.
Awesome. So one of them is going to be a ledger-only mode for Hydra. And what this does is allow you to boot up a Hydra node and turn off talking to the layer 1 and talking to peers. And so it really is only concerned with receiving transactions and validating them. And what this does is serves as a really powerful building block for a lot of tools in the Cardano ecosystem. So this could be the kind of base for a testing framework, where you don't want to spin up a whole private testnet, and you want like a real world execution environment to do benchmarking or to do like really long end-to-end tests with complex orchestration between.
So kind of like what they have on Ethereum with Ganache and stuff like that. Is that
exactly
what you're thinking? Okay.
So it's basically a kind of ledger in your pocket with the Hydra Ledger. I think it would be great to get the same thing for the Cardano node, but it's much harder to integrate it into that code base. And there's a lot higher of a bar to get things into the Cardano node. And so we're starting with the Hydra node. And this is one of the makes it compatible with the Gummy Worm protocol, where we can leverage all of the isomorphic validation of transactions, right? Where the transaction is, and the smart contracts and the programming model is identical between, Cardano that we know and love and whatever system that you're building. It would also be really useful as, for these layer 2 protocols like Gummy Worm, and for developer tools, so that you can run a pocket version of a DApp and play with it before you launch it to the layer 1 or the preview environment. And even for things like speculative execution for bots that are going to submit transactions. So you can kind of play out scenarios and see how would this impact the state before you actually submit those transactions. So that's one of our proposals.
That's really cool.
The other one we're submitting to Hydra is going to be a plugin based architecture for observing and reacting to transactions. So in our case, we want to take that stream of Hydra transactions and compress them into an archival format so that we can ship them off somewhere else for validation. very similar to like a Validium or a rollup.
Okay.
And so as part of that, we're building this plugin architecture where any developer, like for example, Andrew for Firehose, could build a small plugin that integrates the stream of transactions and exfiltrates them in whatever format that you want, right? So the folks at Aura and the CARP indexers and Ogmios and Kupo, all of these could be small plugins to the Hydra node to receive that stream of transactions directly and efficiently without like the overhead of, okay, we need to serialize them to JSON and send them over the network and all that. So
Right.
That's another kind of upstream pull request. And we're really excited about these two because, you know, they provide value to the Cardano community as a whole, not just, you know, oh, let's fund gummy worm development.
Right.
While also kind of exemplifying the open source and community-driven development model that the Hydra team is going after. And I've already talked to Sebastian from the Hydra team, and he's really excited about these proposals. So,
Very cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, your turn. You talk about some of the proposals that are coming out of Drip Drops.
Drip Drops, I think Chris is going to talk about those. I was going to talk about a few new proposals.
Sure.
Yeah, let me pull some up here. So we have, for Noom, we have a couple of proposals for the main app. So the first one is the Stream Token Marketplace, and that one's already under development, but we want to take some community funding to finish that out. The smart contracts are all mostly done. We're still working on a little bit of a batcher system, hopefully that anybody can run. Dealing with stream tokens is a little different than just swapping fungible tokens on a DEX, because it has to have a more specific way of doing the initial sale and then also handle the secondary market. So it's more of an order book DEX, but it's only order book-ish. Anyway, there's that proposal. We're doing one for streaming on mobile. So audio streaming on mobile. We've got one for stream token analytics platform, so you could kind of look at your stream token portfolio, how's it doing, etc. There's some education platforms. We've got one in the Prism category looking to do artist identity. So looking at the Prism V2 stuff, bringing that in, tying it together with KYC for the artists because they're signing legal agreements when they release their tokens through Noom. And we'd like to have that be a DID so that they could take that identity that they need for Noom anyway and use it on some other platform that also needs identity. You know, maybe something to do with real estate or any of the other RealFi companies building on Cardano. Then there's the one I already talked about, the Plutus VM for Kotlin. That's kind of a little side one. There's one that Quinn is going to work on. It's a proof of human system for smart contracts. So a way that you are a human interacting with the smart contract and not a bot. I don't understand that one, but if Quinn was on, he would explain it. But that's more of a deep R&D one. It's pretty interesting. And then there's some other fun stuff like the Music Video Festival Part 2. That's a building on InMaker proposal. And then we've got another InMaker proposal, which is the record store next level. So there's a lot of proposals. Cool. It's kind of like Sunday. We're putting all of them in. Like we would be stretched thin if all of these hit. But at the same time, if we get a couple of them, that would be good. So it's a lot of proposals. It is 10 of them, but again, like this is everything we want to accomplish, and this is what we think we can accomplish in the next. Some of them are 6-month proposals, some of them are 12-month proposals, but we can accomplish most of them.
Yeah, very cool. that reminds me of a point I was going to raise earlier, where we were talking about trying to break down proposals into small units. And maybe you all have opinions on this, but I'm in particular really excited about catalysts. It seems like they are committing to kind of more regularity now. And so with the ability to like, okay, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't get funded this round, we're going to have another round in 3 to 6 months, rather than, hey, it might be a whole year before we see another round. I know that was a big one of the reasons we didn't go after Catalyst funding in the past is the uncertainty around the timing, because it's a lot of effort to put together these proposals.
Yep.
And if you put in all that effort and it doesn't get funded, then you'd wasted a bunch of effort on something that either you now can't build or that you were going to build anyway. And so at the very least, now that we have like a regular cadence to them, we know that like, okay, if it doesn't get past this round, then we can submit it in next round, and that work is a one-time investment rather than kind of this maybe we have to throw it away thing.
No, I totally get that. Like I never put in any Catalyst proposals in the early days of Catalyst, because it was just like, I'm too busy building, I don't have time for this stuff.
Yeah.
And then also it's good to have, it's one of those things you learn over time, is like, this is something that Ryan from Noom always says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's one of those things. You've got to have a team working with you if you want to do bigger long-term things. And having a team that can get behind and help develop and refine these proposals, so that it's just not some dev text that I type up that nobody understands going into a Catalyst proposal that won't get funding because nobody understands it. You've got a marketing team, you've got copy editors, and they know what they're doing to explain it to normal humans.
So for the viewers and secretly for me, can you remind me on the timeline on this Catalyst Fund? When do submissions close? I think it's like in a couple weeks, right? And then how long does funding run? Or I mean, voting run?
I want to say July 11th, but don't hold me to that. Let me look real quick.
I was thinking the 21st, but again, don't hold me to that. I don't remember the dates.
I can't remember either. I thought I had a note right here in front of me, but I don't.
Do you remember how long voting runs?
I think I don't know. I know the vote results, I think, are September, and then first payouts are October.
I don't think voting
Okay, cool.
like an epoch or two, I thought.
Oh, is that it? That's going to be rough, because there's going to be a ton of proposals. We have double
We got to think
the
about
ADA that we had last time.
cycles. And UX is a whole other issue. Cadence is going to be quarterly. So we're going to see Catalyst funds quarterly forward. And it appears IO is going to be going to fund Catalyst this time. And so it's going to be a pretty interesting strategy. So those categories are winner take all there. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly how long voting was, but it wasn't long, because I know that the
It's less than a month. So June 22nd was when it opened. July 13th, proposal window closes. I'll say that one more time. July 13th is the last day. Voting will go from August 31st to September 14th. So it sounds like 2 epics.
Yeah, we've got
Well, it sounds like
back
2
on.
weeks, 14 days.
Yeah, August 31st, September 14th.
So almost 3 epochs. So that's a decent amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
And
Sorry. Yeah,
I imagine if we have the increased cadence, we might even see submissions for the next round start kind of around the same time, right? So that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, we want to hear from Adam. Adam, you've got some proposals to talk about?
Yeah, I got a couple. I'm probably gonna have, I think, 4 or 5 of my own, maybe a few more, for some of the stuff I've been working on.
a lot of people probably know, but I've been trying to focus a lot more on the open source and standardization of the network over the last couple of months. I really enjoy that, but unfortunately, you need somebody to pay you to commit to that time and effort. So I'm going to have a couple of proposals for things like SIP88, Cardano FUDs, and our gatekeeper ticketing solution to try to improve and iterate on those things.
So tell us about Cardano FUDs, because for those not following the SIP process, they may not know that acronym or what it stands for, or tell us more about that.
Yeah, so FUDs is the thing that apparently like everybody in Cardano is secretly terrified of, which is financial updates and disclosure specification, trying to actually bring some legitimate transparency and intelligence to things like people printing native assets. Where's your team allocation? What's the vesting schedule? What's your max circulating supply? And creating a standardized format and an on-chain publication method that allows people like Pi with SundaeSwap or MinSwap or ViFi or whoever else your DEX of choice happens to be, they can just read this data off-chain. There's a validation method, and then you as the project owner host some sort of an API to kind of like provide status updates on your various wallets and or circulating supply to minimize and remove any central gatekeepers. One of my big pet peeves is right now whether or not native assets on Cardano have decimals is controlled by a GitHub repo, controlled by currently the Cardano Foundation. And to me, that feels like a potential avenue for censorship and limiting who actually gets access to the ecosystem in terms of creating and distributing their token for whatever reason or purpose. So I would like to make a fully decentralized method, and then we can leave the censorship up to individual platforms. Like if there's a particular bad word or a token that sorry, Pi, I'm going to use SundaeSwap, for example, doesn't want to be associated with, they can choose to blacklist it on their platform versus being blacklisted at a protocol level, so that, because I believe it's important to be free and open to all, and the ramifications of your action should be dictated by the individuals and the entities, not some sort of like top level gatekeeper of the ecosystem.
Does FUDs have any kind of like community reputation system? Because like the position that SundaeSwap is in is right now we read token metadata from two different sources. One is the Cardano token registry, and one is if you register the metadata on chain when you mint the token. And but the only one that will we display a warning, hey, this may not be the token you intend to interact with, only if it has been kind of validated by the Cardano Foundation, because that human review is a feature to us. And at the same time, as the primary user interface for an open protocol, we have to be really careful about any kind of editorial control that we exercise, right? And so that is all well and good, but like you say, oh, if SundaeSwap wants to blacklist anything, well, we can't, right? We're trying to provide access to a decentralized open protocol, and so our hands are tied in that kind of editorial control, which is a shame because it stops us from protecting people from scams in some cases. And so it'd be really cool if FUDs had a community reputation system where we could say, hey, we're not the source of this data, but this token only has 3 endorsements from other projects, or something along those lines, and we could display that warning. And then once you have 100 endorsements from all your peer projects, we can remove that warning and kind of make that user experience a little bit more seamless.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. I think it's outside of scope of the initial SIP because it would require the initial SIP is going to utilize probably SIP 88, which is just a generic token registration or a registration on chain format, which can be validated by key signatures, right? And that's all we have. But we have a similar situation where right now with NFT projects, not so much fungible token projects, but with NFT projects, like a lot of the marketplaces give them a little check mark saying like, hey, this is a verified or validated policy. And usually that just means that you sent a DM to the team of that particular marketplace and asked them to add a check mark. Like there is no real... Okay, yeah.
In some
this
cases,
is
you paid them money too.
Project.
Oh, really?
Oh, sorry. What was that? My phone is like super shitty
in
on
some
in terms
cases,
of volume.
you paid them money to do the validation. There's
Oh, yeah, maybe in some cases. Yeah, I've never had that problem.
Shame, but some projects on Cardano to get the verified check mark, you've got to do their GitHub and pay them to manage that process.
All right. Yeah. Well, today we learned. But yeah, so my goal with SIP 88 was to get rid of that whole process and at least say, okay, this is verifiable. It came from somebody that has the keys to the policy, that has control of the token or tokens in some way, shape, or form. To at least validate and verify that information was actually published by the user that we intended. But we get into this, is there a minimum volume? Is there a minimum liquidity provision? Is there a social credit score from users? How do we judge, fairly and in a decentralized fashion, whether or not this is the correct end maker token or not? That's a really interesting question. I'll have to do some more thinking about.
Yeah, Chris, wasn't there a proposal on the drip drop side about a reputation system?
That's for a Dozier. Yep.
That's a Dozier. Yeah.
Yeah, that
was an Dozier one, and I don't know anything about it. I just saw that on something.
Yeah. Yeah. So as being a decentralized manufacturing platform and trying to move in as decentralized a direction as we possibly can, there's not going to be a customer service hotline to call. So we're going to need individuals, in the community to perform those functions. So we're going to need a robust reputation system to make sure that's as functional as possible.
And is that an on-chain reputation system, or is that Okay.
It'll be the end goal is for it to be on a side chain, so we're not, throwing bloat on the L1. But the only thing from I guess another one we can talk about real quick for a Dozier is I need to write it up still, but so DIY hardware wallet. So it's under development now. It's just it's a Pi Zero, and a little hat, little display hat. It's in development already. So we're gonna put in a proposal to finish that.
That's very timely because I saw that Ledger just released their new 2.2.1 firmware that has the back door in it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I put a tweet out about that this morning.
They snuck it in.
They snuck it into 2.2.1 instead of, making it a 3.0 or something that people would notice. But that's the one that has their new recovery code in it, even though that platform is not yet launched. They got it into the firmware now.
Well, this one will be only Cardano to start with. I think Ergo will be a pretty easy one to get in there, and then probably Bitcoin after that. And if there's demand for other blockchains after that, then we'll look at it, I guess, and go forward. But we're going to do a nice enclosure. The enclosure is designed now, but you'll be able to print it yourself, download the STL files, and print the enclosure yourself,
or get it printed on a Dozier.
And yeah, absolutely. And the total hardware cost for a user is like $35-40. It's like super cheap.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You want to hear one more of the Sunday proposals? This one's pretty fun. So we're going to submit a proposal to kind of polish up and flesh out an internal tool that we built called Sorbet. So we built this tool a couple months ago called Sorbet. And, Sorbet is kind of, it's not really ice cream. It's just kind of like it's still good, but it's a fake ice cream. And so Sorbet is kind of a fake wallet. And it's really useful for us to, triage support issues and go through the user experience that real wallets out in the wild experience. And so what it does is basically it's a Chrome extension that pretends to be a wallet. And right now you can paste in any address and then use SundaySwap, for example, as if you were that address. So somebody opens a support ticket and they say, hey, this number seems off for me, or I'm getting an error when building this transaction. We can use Sorbet to really, really easily triage that issue. And so we're submitting a proposal to clean this up so that it's kind of suitable for public consumption, open source it, and add some features like logging for every request that it makes to your wallet, and setting up like custom fake UTXO data so that it doesn't even have to be a real wallet. You can just say, hey, I wonder, are we handling this corner case correctly? Let me enter in kind of this weird UTXO and see how the DApp would behave. And so we're going to be submitting a Catalyst proposal for open sourcing that. And we think it'll be a really, really powerful tool for developers building on dApps and for kind of testing that compatibility with SIP30 connections and stuff like that. So we're really excited about that one. I also wanted to, I don't know how many people you have in the chat or anything like that, but if anybody has questions on the 3 proposals that I've talked about, happy to answer them while I'm here. I've got maybe like 10 more minutes before I've got to go.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and say that I also have to drop off right now to go finish showering up. But particularly Sorbet sounds really exciting for me in terms of like with Unfrack It, which will probably also have its own proposal. Being able to test different wallets and everything, that's huge to be able to really test those edge and corner cases that come up. So that sounds exciting. So I'm looking forward to that one. But yeah, thanks guys. I'm going to drop off because I can barely hear you as it is. I had to turn off my camera so I could stick my phone right up next to my ear. I'll be on better hardware hopefully in the future for the next episode. But Josh, good to see you. At least we had one EU member chime in before I had to drop off. So take care, guys.
Something I said. Just come in. You're like, yeah, I've got to go, man.
No, yeah, I saw you're wearing a Batman shirt, and that is just that's a red line in the sand for me, man. So.
Adam, if you can still hear, or if somebody wants to tell him later, he was actually the inspiration for Sorbet because it was his wallets that were always breaking all these different dApps and lace and things like that. And he has like tons of different NFTs and things like that. And so I asked him to test Sunday V2 one day before we had launched it, and he said, "Oh, well, it breaks in these ways." And I was like, well, what if I could just test with Adam's wallet? And so that was kind of the kernel of the idea that, it's I think it's something that had been stirring in the back of my head from a like, oh, this is a problem that it's really hard for us to, triage support tickets. But it was really that interaction that gave the inspiration for Sorbet. And it's been fantastic as an internal tool. It's just a little too messy to like release to the public right now.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to using that for triaging support like that'll be perfect. It's just like, tell me, give me an address from your wallet, then I can go through as you and see where the stuff is breaking, whether that's drip drops, whether that's Noom. You can really help the user very quickly. That's
yeah, me too. Because now, I mean, I guess I'm basically performing a similar function, but somebody says I can't do X, Y, Z, or ABC is happening to me, and they give me a stake address. Well, I have to go on choose one of whatever block explorer is going to help me in that particular scenario the best, and try to look through their wallet and figure out that what I mean. So being able to just run it as them, it kind of reminds me of Jet Chicken actually, because it's a different purpose, but a similar mechanism. Like with Jet Chicken, the game, you can play the game with someone else's wallet. And any rewards you earn during the game, it's cool, but the person who owns the wallet gets the rewards. So it's kind of neat.
Most of the rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's going to be degenning. That one's fun. That's
so if you missed out on, well, I guess it's always minting, right? Is Jet Chicken still minting?
No, the mint's done. So
okay.
So I know
if you missed out, you can still play the game though.
Yeah, but what we're gonna do actually is we're gonna spin it back up, whole new season. But the whole game wasn't designed for this whole, NFT degen, right? Hype. This was done before that as it was taking off, as a goal to try and give people more for more bang for their ADA power. But the way I've thought about throwing this together, so we're going to do a whole new season. We're going to price it really low. It's going to be cheap, and it's going to be like a 5-year policy. It's going to be kind of sorry, I just got a DM. So 5-year policy, lengthy policy. The chicken levels that came out were what, 6 and 7, and maybe you got a level 8 if you were real lucky, and then you could fry them up to 8 and 9 during the fryer. But the new ones are going to come out like level 2, 3, or 4. And so as you play this game, it's a turn-based game, player versus player, and you can play with any wallet on the chain or your own wallet. Now, if you play with somebody else's wallet, they're just going to end up getting more rewards. But rewards in the game are going to be issued in the sense of fungible tokens. So you'll have fungible tokens that are used to open packs, so new packs of cards. You'll have fungible tokens for various skill points. Because the whole idea is you're going to actually be burning and upgrading these chickens as you go along to make them stronger. So that's going to make the season 1 chickens much more valuable, because it's going to take a shit ton of skill points to get them to upgrade. And then we've even got a choke chicken button, so that's cool. So we worked that one in there. But, this is going to be probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done, but I'm pretty proud of it. I spent an hour a week on it with the developer, and but it's coming along. So the graphics are pretty good.
What's the choke chicken button gonna do?
So,
or do I want to know?
Every 3 turns, you're gonna get a key to open a treasure chest, and so you're gonna start the game with a certain amount of scratch tokens, and what you finish with will go into the rewards, and all the rewards are going to be used via instant rewards on drip drops. So it's all Web 2 API based. Part of it, just reading what's in the wallet. So the choke chicken button is kind of like a mini game that you can play in between turns when you're bored, and it's essentially going to determine what type of rewards you get. But it's fun,
So you're saying choking your chicken is something you do when you're sitting there at your computer alone and bored. Okay, just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah, no, I've successfully incorporated the jack off button to the game. That's like one of my benefits. No, but so anyways, but one of the proposals we're doing, Ant's not really here to talk about it. That's kind of his baby, is Main Street. And so that was always the code name, but I think that's what we're just going to roll with branding. It's kind of grown on us. And essentially, it's more or less like a strike that'll allow merchants to buy crypto, sell crypto, and exchange crypto. So users can purchase in whatever asset they want, whether it's US dollars or fiat, and merchants can receive in whatever asset they want. So it's a pretty large initiative. Competitors, like PayPal, Venmo, probably Twitter here soon. It's a large initiative, but we have come a very long way. We are actively pursuing money transmitter licenses in all U.S. territories for that. And also we have a strategic engagement, or we've been classified by Fireblocks as a strategic customer. So we are engaged directly with Fireblocks as well. So, we were funded for Catalyst to get, as far as we've gotten so far. And our original intent was to use what we had to go and kind of raise VC money based on that. Lloyd's out kind of pounding the pavement right now, but given the recent landscape of what's happened in the U.S., that's really just thrown a wrench in all our plans. So we've had to pivot. So that's one of the things we're coming back and throwing up under Catalyst as well. One of the other proposals I can talk about is going to be a component that we need for accepting fiat payments in the accounting system to make that all easier. There's a huge gap that I see where users are just not going to onboard the mnemonics. It's not going to happen. So there's this area for custodial services and not really pseudo custodial, but bypass services where you can enable, certain applications to take fiat and operate within the realm, and then while also servicing crypto users as well. And one of the biggest things that I'm struggling with now, or not really struggling with, it's just I haven't changed the way I'm thinking, is that now that we're moving drip drops overseas, we don't have to tie a hand behind our back as we craft products. We can come full force and really build some awesome stuff. And so that component will help us immensely. So
how are you bridging like the fiat and the crypto side?
So there's different ways to do it. So there's 3 ways to do it. So one way is for a business model that we haven't really decided if we're going to pull the trigger on yet. And if we do, it'll be a little bit later. But that model is essentially you take fiat and you just use the chain as the back end as a commodity. The user doesn't even know about it, nor do they need to, right? You're using the chain for actually an application it's good for. Another example would be like a Dozier. So a Dozier right now, to use that as a user, you want to go in and you want to buy something, you got to go pay in crypto, right? And so that money is split between the designer, the printer operator, right? And that all makes sense. But how do we go and we get, 100 million users to use that? It's not going to happen. So there exists a realm to where we would want users to be able to pay in fiat. But when you do that, we can't go, at least not legally, sell that fiat, convert it to crypto, and then pay that to some anonymous printer operator out there in the world. So as a complementary model would actually be to work directly with printer operators, hire them as contractors, and then you can pay them directly in fiat. You see what I'm saying? But you can still service your user while you grow this decentralized ecosystem. Alternatively, with drip drops, one way we could do it is if we're overseas, we can get a little bit more funky with custodial, and I can go and sell mom and pops who don't know anything about crypto to go in and give me a fiat subscription. And we're managing custodial wallets and everything's just on a dashboard for them, just how most people handle most of their Web 2.0 today, while we're managing all the crypto works on the back end, right? So it opens up the gates for us to really go and get.
That's an interesting idea, though. That's the idea I would prefer, I think.
Well, that's
the easiest, simplest option.
Yeah. So you can pay with your credit card, and you got a nice dashboard. Oh, you got all your kids' wallets set up. You see what I'm saying? You can see everything. And then when you're ready, one day we can show you how to offboard that into your own wallet. But you just go. Yeah, well, as you get into it, and that sounds like a nice, simple solution. I'm tired of fucking fishing in the pond. We're ready to fucking grow up here. So that's.
I'm going to drop. Thanks for having me on and let me talk about my proposals and tell me about yours. I'm really excited about yours. And I will talk to you all later.
Likewise, Pi.
Good to see you, brother. Take care.
See ya.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Sorbet. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I only heard a bit of it, so I don't fully understand it. I do like sorbet, though.
Me too. It's very tasty.
Patrick should be coming on soon, Toddler.
Yeah, basically what they're doing, Josh, is he's basically building a tool where for testing purposes and other purposes, but for testing purposes, I guess you could use someone's wallet, their stake address or whatever to kind of, do testing on how it would behave.
Process on a DApp, pretend you're them until you get, of course, to the signing screen, and you won't have the keys to sign it, but you could build the whole transaction and see like what went wrong for them.
Oh,
it's
I see. Okay.
kind of a diagnosis tool. So it's not real ice cream, it's fake ice cream. That's why it's sort of
A dummy transaction. It's just missing the keys, basically. It's,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's
go
all
through
just the same transactions, isn't it? It's the same,
right. So then
calculations.
you can look at the transaction it built
Yeah.
with that person's wallet and be like, oh, well, that's jank. I've got my code wrong here. I'll go fix that, and then suddenly their stuff is working. You know, like, oh, I forgot to check to make sure the transaction size is under the maximum. So
The way things are currently, I mean, you can build a transaction using any state key you want, but you can't do anything with it. There's no pretty way to present that to an end user who's trying to use it for some other purpose, testing or whatever.
So, what language is that already?
English.
no, he never said what language it's in, but basically it's a Chrome plugin that it just pretends it's a SIP30 wallet, is what he said.
Right. Okay.
But they've got to clean it up, which is what the Catalyst funding is for. It's just an internal Sunday swap tool right now.
I can't help but think to onboard developers, you need to. I think all the JavaScript developers. Are they the ones you think you need to onboard to get building?
Probably.
No, there's a
lot of those.
We have developers in all kinds of languages, and
Kotlin.
I mean, kind of what the CF is doing with Aiken and kind of how they're pushing stuff to all the different languages, so you can kind of
I did a video on
anything.
Yeah. And yeah. So my impression with Aiken was they just sort of sum up what your code is and convert it into.
Well, Aiken is like the Rust flavor. There's also, a version-ish of it that does it in Python. There's one that does it in TypeScript. I'm working on the one that's going to do it in Kotlin. The idea is to do Plutus, but in whatever language.
Everyone seems to be loving TypeScript at the moment. I think I saw even Charles tweet about it.
TypeScript is good. We're using TypeScript at Noom for all the front end development work. It's pretty good.
I'm not a coder. I understand it's better for finance side of things.
It's a better JavaScript.
But because the thing is, you've got a lot of JavaScript like web designers and developers and doing all sorts of shit. They're all stuck. The reason they haven't got into crypto is because they're just happy doing their thing. They're making money doing whatever it is they're doing, and it's working. Why change? And then now they're starting to think, oh, hang on, maybe I need to look into Web3 here. Where am I going to go? And so, yeah, because I mean, like even like my kid at Code Ninjas, the idea is when he gets older, he's a teenager, that he's taught JavaScript because that's meant to be the one to learn. But yeah, so that's why I felt like they're the ones we need to onboard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hey, Thomas. Thomas asks, do you guys think an OTC ADA for fiat proposal will be well received? Over-the-counter ADA for fiat proposal? Perhaps.
I mean, that's
can you
kind
elaborate
of
on
what
that?
Main Street is doing behind the scenes. If some mom and pop shop comes in and says, oh, I want to only receive Bitcoin, but somebody else wants to pay an ADA, a lot of those swaps inside Fireblocks end up not on public exchanges, but they end up at OTC desks.
Yep.
So maybe you don't even do a swap when that first transaction happens. You just use omnibus wallets to switch who has what. And then at the end of the day, maybe you settle up with one big OTC transaction.
Yep.
So there's, but yeah, if you had a proposal and you had enough legal backing to pull it off, I would say, yeah, it'd be very well received. I think we need to keep the on and offboarding ramps strong. I think right now, with the current climate, they've been weakened pretty heavily in the U.S.
Yeah.
I did see Coinbase came out swinging today, though, basically saying the SEC has no jurisdiction because all of these are commodities. So that was their big legal swing there.
I haven't followed any news this week at all.
I've been off sick this week. I haven't done videos. I haven't done Cardano news. I've just done the odd tweets on Twitter. But yeah, I think yeah. I mean, the SEC's made mistakes in the past. They've missed stuff and they've gone over the top with stuff. So they've missed stuff in the past, and now they seem to be going a bit over the top with crypto.
There's a lot of overreaching going on right now for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know. Gary Jones's days are going to be numbered. Like every tweet he does, you just read all the comments.
He's
full
got 2 years. Nobody can fire him for 2 years, and that's what people need to understand. Like Congress can say we fire him, but until Biden asks him to resign, he's already been approved by Congress. He got approved 2 years ago.
So basically, Biden's. Because I don't fully understand the
Biden is his boss. Like,
oh yeah, no, I get that.
At the end of the day, Congress has oversight, but Congress gave their oversight 2 years ago when they gave the thumbs up on the guy.
Yeah,
they don't get any more oversight. So,
and the SEC is a part of the executive branch.
Yeah.
So by extension.
Well,
anyway, guys, I've got to drop. We've got Epoch coming up, and as always, that's a lively time at Drip Drops.
Yep.
So I need to make sure everything is ready to go for all the new drops. So
yeah, let's go ahead and call it, Chris. I got a meeting too.
All right, guys. Yeah, we're coming up on the 1 hour mark. We've been up here for an hour.
Okay.
So yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out with us and jamming on Fun 10. And we'll be back next Thursday, normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Take it easy, guys.
See you guys.
See ya.
Oh, and in 2 weeks on Ada Pulse.
That's right.
Should have said that earlier.
See you guys.